Hello everyone, Ogre27 Kane here today, and we're doing a review of one of my favorite RPGs, Battle Chasers Nightwar for the Nintendo Switch. Let's give a real quick overview of what this game is and who made it. This game was made by Airship Syndicate, a group of guys who got together after Vigil Games broke up, the former makers of Darksiders 1 and 2. They also produced the amazing beat-em-up Darksiders Genesis. So if you're into that series, I definitely recommend checking this game out. This is a turn-based RPG based on a comic book that these guys owned before all of this. I'll just give a quick overview of the story here because I feel like it's kind of the highlight of the game and one of the reasons that you should play it. This story centers around a girl named Gully and her quest to find her father. Along with the mage Nolan, they take an airship and go to explore this island. After crashing the airship, they kind of have to try to figure out what's going on the island, and that's where the story takes place. And this is where the game begins. Well, first, let's hit up on the gameplay, the general loop, and how everything works and functions. There's different forms of currency for all kinds of crafting. You have a lot of different places you can go in the main village to spend your money. The inn and the tavern allows you to rest and allows you to change your characters. Then you can craft new potions if you want. You can also go to the collector and spend some coins to get some rare wares, some rare different things that you can use on your quest. You can also go check out the vampiress and do some different enchanting for your weapons and items. Last, we have the barbarian here, the Beastmaster Raha, and she allows you to train and get some different little mini quests that get you some pretty cool weapons and skill points. Speaking of skill points, the skill system in this game is really unique. Nothing is permanent and allows you a lot of flexibility. You can always take points out and move them around to try new strategies. So next, let's talk about the world, and the world map itself and how it actually works. It's pretty plain, it's not exactly the most beautiful thing, but the watercolor and art style work really well for what it is. It conveys movement between dungeons and towns, and it shows enemies and it shows resources that you can pick up. As you can see here on screen, the dungeons have different levels. The legendary dungeons are supposed to be the most dangerous dungeons, and they also don't allow you to die and come back. The other levels just increase or decrease your loot according to them. This scaling system works fairly well in the later dungeons, but it does not work at all in the early dungeons. Unfortunately, once you get past a certain level, no matter how high you raise this level, it doesn't really give you much loot. And that's one of the only disappointments I have with the game. It only encourages you to play the later levels once you get so powerful. All of the dungeons and the areas you go to in this game are permanent, but they are randomly generated each time you enter them. This is somewhat disappointing and somewhat unique at the same time, giving replayability but not allowing it to have a lot of good puzzle work or uniqueness to it. So that's another toss-up you have to deal with. Next, let's hit some graphics and animations. The graphics and artwork in this game are very much a watercolor style, but they work really well for the Switch's hardware. Never once did I ever feel like that they didn't look good or were too cartoony, even though they do look hand-drawn. The cool thing to me is that this game really does look like a comic book, and every time you use a unique move or something crazy on screen, the game pans in and out and gives you a lot of cool effects. So, in that sense, it really does feel like they were trying to bring their comic book to life. I do have to mention there is a lot of frame rate breaks and stutters, but considering this is a turn-based RPG, it didn't really bother me one bit. A lot of the frame breaks that did occur were predictable on certain movesets. This leads me to believe that maybe they were programmed that way. The nice thing though is with this really unique hand-drawn art style, it makes the animations beautifully smooth, and all of the cutscenes fit right in. As you can see on screen right now, the cutscenes are absolutely gorgeous, and all of the work that you see was absolutely 100% a work of love. which is another reason that you kind of need to see this game through, is to see all of the different beautiful artwork these guys made. I am curious to see, because I know this game is on the Xbox, if the frame rate issues are the same or if they are even present in that version. I know I'm being a little nitpicky with this, especially considering it did not influence my decision to play this game through at all. Next, I want to talk about the combat. The combat in this game is your traditional turn-based RPG. What sets this system apart, though, is that it allows you to use some of your weaker moves that you'd normally use in most games like this just to get rid of stuff, to build up a reserve mana pool that you can draw from. This allows you to use all of your abilities and spells without dipping into your real mana pool, thus encouraging you to use more of these things and see these abilities through. I absolutely love this. This made me want to use my magic instead of sit there and save it and store it for safekeeping. I wish more games would find creative ways to use their magic. The other cool thing about this is if you run out of mana during a really tough boss fight, you can sort of build that mana back up without having to use any items or potions or anything like that. It allows you to really stay completely offensively focused if you want. This not only makes every character usable in terms of offense, defense, but also magic. Even your traditional offensive powerhouses, such as my swordsman here, still are useful in other areas. Even my magic user, this giant robot here, still can pack quite the punch. I really love this system. It made me kind of play with who I wanted in my party at different times. Another thing that I really want to say about the combat system is that it's really fast-paced. I never felt like any of the battles were too drug out or ridiculous. Even the stronger enemies in the game don't have enormous health pools. If they really want to be difficult, they'll have unique abilities that allow them to restore health or create shields or barriers, but nothing that felt unfair like I was just grinding away forever for nothing, for no reason. Well, let's touch on some controls now. The controls in this game do their job well. It's a top-down isometric RPG. It doesn't really require a lot of stress or strain on your thumbs. Not really a lot of fast reaction time or anything like that. All the buttons are well placed and do their job well. All the prompts on screen are well connected and everything was definitely tested. The only thing that I want to complain about the controls is that I feel like the character movements themselves feel like they're underwater. They move really slowly. And I know it's kind of a design feature of it to make you kind of take the dungeon slowly. There are a lot of traps and whatnot, but I wish there was a run button or some way to really make your characters get through the dungeons faster. A lot of times you'll find yourself running in circles, and that slow movement is really what holds you up. I should mention though, there are options in the menu for increasing or decreasing sensitivity and looking at other things. Being a turn-based RPG, these aren't really a necessity, and like I said, all the buttons are well placed anyway. It is cool that they have the feature there. Let's talk about New Game Plus now. This is definitely one of my favorite features in most new RPGs. The fact that a lot of games include this makes me pretty happy. I wish a lot of the old RPGs I grew up with had this feature because I've replayed most of those games over and over. The only disappointing thing is that there are some weapons and items that you have to wait till the end of the game to get. Not really a big deal, but it is kinda cool to have more that you can do. Finally, let's hit this conclusion. Well, as per most of my conclusions, should you buy this game? Absolutely. Will you play this game through? Absolutely. This game's a lot of fun. The audio in this game is one of a kind. If you do nothing but listen to this soundtrack, then it is totally worth it. They invested a lot of time and effort, and they're trying to revive one of their favorite franchises. I recommend everybody pick this up, whether it's on Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation. This game will not disappoint you. It's really cool to see the creators of one of my favorite franchises in the Darksiders game come back with something so unique and so interesting. I love RPGs, they always have a special place in my heart, and this game has stayed in my library since it came out on the Nintendo Switch. I bought this game pretty new, pretty close to release, and I'll tell you right now, I will probably never get rid of it. So if you enjoy RPGs, you cannot go wrong. This is definitely one of the best ones on the Nintendo Switch. Well, thank you for watching this video. I upload every single Monday. This video was an absolute blast to make. Have a great rest of your day. And this is Ogre27 Kane, signing out.